But with the third co-main event, or I should say the third title fight, we had Aljamain Sterling fight Petr Yan, and this is one of the most interesting endings we've seen in the fight in probably quite a bit of time. If you were watching the fight, and I'll just give my piece now. Throughout the first 4 rounds, it was relatively back and forth. This was a close fight, you know? It wasn't like somebody was fully dominating or anything like that. And midway through the 4th round, Petr Yan had Aljamain Sterling on the ground. Mind you, 3 points of contact means you are a downed opponent, which means you cannot be kneed in the head. And what did Petr Yan do? He kneed him in the head. And there are a lot of people in the MMA community that are saying one of two things. They're saying that, wow, Aljamain is acting for his life, or wow, he got hit with a very illegal shot that clearly dazed him and the fight was over. I'm in the latter group. I think he got hit with like a clean ass knee and just couldn't fight anymore. That's my opinion. I think he was in a situation to where he could have won the fight. I don't think he was winning the fight, but he was damn close. It's arguable. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm not mad at Aljamain Sterling. I think he can still win the title. I think probably the person who misses out the most because of the situation is Corey. Is it Cody or Corey Sandhagen? I keep on fucking it up.
Corey
Sandhagen. Shouts out to Sandman. He's not going to get that title shot right now. That's what I can say. He's going to have to wait. So he might fight TJ Dillashaw, but they're going to run it back immediately.
The fight was very competitive. It was probably the most competitive title fight out of the 3 fights, really. Well, no, let me not say that, because the main event was pretty competitive too. But as far as entertainment goes, that was probably the most entertaining title fight out of all 3, just because it was a little back and forth. I had Petr winning the fight up until that point, but Aljamain wasn't too far behind. Aljamain, he could have done enough to gain momentum back where, hey, in the 5th round, it comes down to this last round type of deal. And of course, we can't predict on who was going to do what because the fight was so back and forth. But what I will say is I had Petr I had him edging the fight up until that point. I agree with you, Nigel, that and the many others that he got cracked with a big ass knee. And that's what got the fight stopped because it was a legal shot versus the people claiming Aljo flopped like he was LeBron James to walk away with it, to walk away with the championship. And I think that the narrative is being crazy with this one because it's like, hey, he just flopped for so long and then he was able to give an interview. Well, people are ignoring the fact that the doctor came to check on him. It was like 10 fucking minutes between him getting kneed in the face to him doing that interview. So, I mean, do people expect for him to be concussed nonstop or throwing up and all that? And then days later, he could finally give an interview? It doesn't work like that. There's people who's been knocked out viciously and then they're able to get up and walk out the octagon. I don't agree with him being interviewed. I don't, because if the dude is supposed to be a concussed and all that, why are you interviewing a concussed guy who's clearly not in the right mind frame? But I also don't think it was far-fetched for him to have his wits about him after being, knocked out the way he was. I have no problem with the title change because that's what the rules say. The rules say, hey, disqualification, you must give up the belt. Hey, it is what it is. That's what the rules say. But I agree with the masses that this fight needs to. This is immediate rematch title fight.
It seemed like it was a competitive fight at some point, but I do feel as though like Jan was breaking his way to win the fight. Like an injury, like something like that. When you watch it, it looks like something out of Mortal Kombat to some extent. The way like he just flings back, right? I can understand someone saying a flop, but it's not like they rehearsed that. That's the only way that could be a flop if they rehearse something like that, which I highly doubt. So, I mean, you saw how Aljamain, even when he was presented the belt, he was upset about it. So, and he didn't accept it because he understands that it's not a real victory nonetheless. So, I'm hoping that they're able to create a rematch as soon as possible, let Aljamain get his wits back to him, and then they go out there to fight again. And then then we can actually say who is the real champion. But we don't want this to take too long because then it just closes up the division. So
Yeah. What I will say, just to kind of end this off, is that Aljamain Sterling, if you were watching the fight, he started off very good in the first and then started to really gas. At least it appeared that he was gassed in the third and fourth. A lot of the reason why he found himself in that position to get kneed is because he had no energy. Like, for somebody who I've seen fight 5-round fights and I've seen put on good performances throughout full-length fights, last night he looked different, and he looked like he was gassed, and he looked like he might have had a little bit too much adrenaline in the beginning of the fight, because when that happens, all that shit eventually comes back down to earth and you are tired. That's the way he looked.